Welcome to the celebration of Yog Shaktis. The Indian Yoga Association, IYA, represents a historic effort to bring together all yoga traditions in pursuit of the common goal of spreading the message of yoga. The theme of this year's International Day of Yoga is Women Empowerment. IYA, through their IDY series, is celebrating the contribution of women yogacharinis by highlighting their critical role and yoga's transformative power in fostering women's empowerment and well being. Today's session is called Women Rise to Your Potential. It will be conducted by Garimaji, the founder of the Swasth Institute.
Much gratitude to the Indian Yoga Association for giving this opportunity. If you're a woman tuning into this session, by most external metrics, you're empowered. It means that you're fluent in English, well educated, you have access to good internet, you have the time and space for self growth. But if despite this outer success, if you're still here in this session, it means that perhaps something is missing. Perhaps there's something else that you're seeking. So let's pause for a moment and reflect on some questions that I'm going to ask you. Is this you feeling overwhelmed by the demands of the world around you? Prioritizing others' needs at home or work above yours? Wondering if you're living up to your potential? Undervaluing your gifts and abilities? Feeling disconnected from your own body wisdom and intuition? Feeling alone in your journey? Don't worry, you are not alone. This is or has been the lived experience of many women today, including myself. Despite my stellar credentials, at many points in my journey, I have felt burnt out or unfulfilled. My relationships suffered, both with others and myself. I had neither health nor joy. But through a long process of study, contemplation, and lived experiences, I have come to believe that we women can have a different reality. So, in this session, I'm going to share the essence of my learning and work with you. By the end of this session, you will have the beginnings of a new vision, a destination for you to be, a path, an approach to get there, and a process to walk the path. To get there, in this session, you will see challenges with the current approach to women's empowerment. Whether or not we've been consciously thinking about this or not, there are certain beliefs that run subconsciously that we are going to look at today. We will also see a new wholesome and easeful approach to empowerment. What can a different way look like? And then you will see where are you currently placed in this above new, wholesome, and easeful paradigm. You will also see how is it that your past shows up in your present life. So whether or not, again, we were aware of it, our past conditioning, context, patterns, and beliefs all show up in the present and therefore create our future. So we'll become more aware of that as women. What are some of these common patterns that are governing our life? And then with this awareness, you can step out of old limiting beliefs, tune into your inner wisdom, and start to get a glimpse of what it might be to rewrite the story of your life in the future. To make the most of this session, you don't need a yoga mat. We're not going to be doing a physical practice today, but we will be being in yoga. So instead of doing yoga, we will be in yoga, which means to be in union with, in harmony with ourselves, so that we can understand ourselves. And for that, I invite you to bring out a pen and a few pieces of paper. I invite you to join me with an invocation so that we can set the tone and the intention for today's session. I'm going to share on the screen these words. Ya Devi Sarvabhuteshu Shakti Rupena Samsthita Namastasye 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 Namo Namaha. So we'll start with bowing to the goddess that lives in all in the roop of Shakti. I invite you to say these words after me. So let's take a few moments to ground ourselves, taking our attention inwards, connecting to our breath, becoming present. And now I'll say these words that you can repeat after me. Ya Devi Sarvabhuteshu Shaktirupena Samsthita Namastasye 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 Namo Namaha. Ya Devi Sarvabhuteshu Shaktirupena Samsthita Namastasye 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 Namo Namaha. One last time. Ya Devi Sarvabhuteshu Shaktirupena Samsthita Namastasye 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 Namo Namaha. Keeping your attention in words, let the energy of these words spread through every cell of your body. Becoming more aware of your body, your breath. I invite you, with your attention still inwards, to take your attention to your image of an ideal woman. So let an image pop up for you. For whom? For you, the ideal woman. What does she look like? What is her physical appearance? Her hair, face, body structure. What is she wearing? Her clothes, her jewelry. Just visualize that. What are some emotional attributes that you associate with the ideal woman? What is her personality like? What are her qualities? And now see this ideal woman in the context of society, which means her family, work. How do you visualize her? What makes her ideal? Visualize as many details as you can. And slowly, you can bring your attention back into this room with a few blinks of the eyes. You can open your eyes. So what you just visualized was your imagination, your template, your description of what an ideal woman looks like. And different cultures and different times have had their own template. I'm going to show you two for the sake of simplicity, two templates, a traditional and a modern template of how we try to visualize and fit the ideal woman. This is the traditional template. You can see right from the physical appearance of long hair, wearing a traditional dress with jewelry well put together, to certain emotions and personality that we can attribute to such a person. We see her as loving, caring, giving, sacrificing, putting others ahead of herself, always thinking about others. And also, we always see her in the context of a family. So, how is she as a wife, a mother, a daughter, a sister, a daughter in law? Many, many roles that we see her juggling, all with a lot of grace, a smile on her face, and constantly thinking about the other. This is one of the templates for the modern woman. Right? You can see physically just the clothes that she's wearing, a cool, educated woman, the confidence that she exudes, perhaps certain personality traits like being determined, being a go-getter, breaking the class ceiling. And yes, she takes care of her family, but we also see her leading teams, companies, and bringing in other people as required to take care of the home. So there are many, many different definitions, but for the sake of simplicity, I'm oversimplifying this perhaps, but the idea is to make a point of contrast, the traditional and the modern. So if you can take a moment to reflect, where on this spectrum do you fit in the traditional and modern with respect to your family, work, your physical appearance, your emotional attributes? Please note that the idea is not to say which template is right or wrong, good and bad. There is no such thing. What we're trying to see is that each of these templates had a certain purpose because it was based on a certain context, a certain assumption on society and the fabric of life. And each of these templates has served that purpose. But sometimes when we take things to an extreme and just be governed by this template, it also does pose challenges. So the benefits of the traditional template was that there was a very cohesive family with a very clear division of roles. So a lot of focus on the family. The benefit of the modern template is that the family benefits from a higher income. Organizations get diversity, have a lot of talent coming in. Women themselves have a very different experience of life. So each of these has certain benefits. What are some downsides? In the traditional template, sometimes women feel undervalued. They feel weak, especially if their education has been compromised, or if they haven't been working, if they're not earning. They may actually find themselves and feel that they are less valuable than others. Some of the challenges with the modern structures can be that the family structure starts weakening because there is less support for home. Sometimes it causes rift with the elder generations who are more attuned to a traditional way of being. And if I may stretch these to a little bit of an extreme right now, we're just doing this to illustrate a point. A downside, a danger of the traditional model when taken to its absolute extreme is practices like dowry, objectification of women, and a whole spectrum of abuse that they go through when they feel completely disempowered. On the other side, the modern woman trying to do it all leads to the woman also feeling burnt out, having health issues, and sometimes really losing sense of her own self because she's constantly juggling different responsibilities. And this shift of templates and of this gender equation over time is not just impacting women and families, I mean, it's impacting men too. And while there has been a lot of improvement and progress as we have started embracing the modern as well, the fact that we're trying to do both is also coming with its own challenges. New problems are arising with our approach to women's empowerment. Families are falling apart, whether it's a high rate of divorces, a relationship with children is suffering, relationship with elders. In the workplace, there is stress, burnout, personal health and well-being. All of these uh, can start to have an adverse impact. So again, I invite you to pause reflect in your challenge, in your life, what challenges are showing up because of the template that you are trying to fit into. It may or may not be one of these, it may be a combination of these. But just reflect for a moment. How is the template posing a challenge in your life? It's also serving a purpose. So be aware of the purpose. Be aware of both how is it helping and what is a challenge that you're currently facing. Can we pause and consider the possibility that right now we may be addressing the symptom and not the root cause, trying to fix the leaves without making the soil healthy? Because the fact is, like I said earlier, while we are empowered as women, there are challenges also that are coming up. What is happening is that our focus is on the external doing. We're trying to do it all rather than focus on the internal being, which is to be it all. So we'll talk a little bit about this difference between the external doing and the internal being from where the doing springs. So what could be an alternate way to redefine and look at women's empowerment? Let's take a look at an alternative approach. At the Swasth Institute, here is how we visualize empowerment. And our definition of empowerment is where one can rise into the potential of our whole self. So there is wholeness within. With the power, the empowerment, the power to make choices. And how are these choices made? They are made as per the situation, the needs of the situation, the context that you are in or want to be in, and aligned to your values, to our values, and to our inner essence. So, empowerment is to rise into the potential of our whole self with the power to make choices as per the situation and aligned to our values and essence. Self. One aspect of wholeness that we will focus on today is that of the masculine and the feminine within. So let's see some masculine qualities: being competitive, assertive, protective, goal oriented, rational thinking, independent, monotasking, and with a bias for action. Let's see some feminine qualities: collaborative, receptive, nurturing, relationship oriented, intuitive feeling, interdependence, multitasking, and bias for flow. So take a moment to just look at how each of these are two sides of the same spectrum. There are other paradigms as well, other ways to look at our wholeness. So traditionally, this image of Ardhanarishwar was to demonstrate the wholeness and the completeness of both of these selves. Each of us has these two selves. It's not a division between male and female. All of us have a masculine and a feminine. And that is empowerment. When we are in our whole self, when we have the ability to be masculine, we have the ability to be feminine. Another important point is that sometimes you may map masculine qualities to work and feminine qualities to home, to family. But that need not be. This is not about externally what we're doing, but internally, how are we showing up and how are we being in whatever we do. So whether it's at the workplace or whether it's at in the family, one can be protective or nurturing, goal-oriented or relationship-oriented. So these are modes of being that can be applied to men and women and to any kind of work as well. Now, the challenge is that any of these, either the masculine or the feminine, when you take it to the extreme, again, there are challenges. So masculine qualities and feminine qualities, let's see what happens. The extreme of masculine can lead to a very narrow, short term focus because the idea is to be competing, right? To protecting and to very, very quickly do things rather than pause and flow. So that narrow focus and that short term focus actually leads to depletion, outer depletion or inner depletion. A lot of the challenges that we're seeing in the world today, even with respect to climate change, have happened because of an excessive masculine energy. We're thinking about maximizing the solo and not necessarily everything. So we're thinking independently, but not really thinking of interdependence. Now, what are some challenges of feminine qualities when taken to the extreme? That can actually result in diffused action, right? Because there's so much focus on being receiving, nurturing, reflecting, and being that the action energy can be less. And it can lead to this energy of self effacing helplessness. What I mean by that is when we lose our sense of the self because we're so focused on others that we actually forget our own self and we feel helpless, we feel powerless. So each of these has pros and cons. So I invite you to again pause for a few moments and reflect. Where are you on the spectrum with respect to the masculine and the feminine? At work, take a moment and see what qualities do you have more of. How are you at home? And again, you need not be toggling between one of these two states. You can have some of the masculine, some of the feminine, but just take a moment to reflect. Where are you? And reflect that the pattern that you have currently, how has it helped you? It became a pattern for a reason. It has served you in the past, and maybe it's serving you today as well. So see this and reflect which of these qualities is helping you and how. And now reflect on the third question. How could your life shift if you can rise into your whole self? So if you're more on the masculine, what might shift if you bring in the feminine as well? Not to switch, but to bring in the wholeness. The ability to be masculine when needed, feminine when needed. So, how might things for you shift at home, at work, with respect to your health, as and when you bring in this wholeness? So, some of you may be thinking that if you think in terms of the masculine and the feminine, this uh, empowerment becomes a very gender neutral term because each of us is rising into their wholeness, the masculine and the feminine. It's not really about the gender as it is about this being, these qualities inside. And yes, that is true. Both for men and women, the destination is the same. It's the wholeness, the purnata that we talk of. But the journey and the path to get there can be different because men and women have historically had a different kind of a context, different upbringing, different conditioning. So the destination is the same, but the path to empowerment for men and women can be different. And I'll illustrate it with an image. This is an image of different streams merging into a river. So they have a common goal, but different paths. Different streams merging into the same river of wholeness. Even among women, the paths to rising can differ based on the past conditioning. So all women are not the same. We've all had very, very different upbringing, context, conditioning. So based on that, we will each have, again, our own unique journey and our own path to rising. So let's take an example. If you have been primarily been of a feminine nature and also nurtured like that, one of those two has been strong, then what is likely to come up as a pattern is that you might prioritize others a lot more above your own needs. You may be doubting your potential and abilities and never feeling good enough, whether it's at home or whether it's at work. And this point is very important, that whether at home or work. So again, it has nothing to do with work or home, the doing. But if that's the being that I have been in, that I have been so much on nurturing others, I have not nurtured myself, these are patterns that are likely to come up. This is like sanskaras. This is years and years of conditioning, not just for us, but the generations before us. And today there is a talk of generational, intergenerational trauma. So all of these are experiences, sanskaras in the past that many women have had over generations in our family and as a society. So what has been the context of women with a very feminine upbringing is that they've not been educated. They were not equipped to deal with the outer world. Right? They were sometimes undervalued. They had limited role models of success as defined by the outer world. Right? Even today, if you see, most industrialists, businessmen, leaders, all of them are largely men. I would say in the spiritual world as well, we have a lot more role models as men, but not so many women. So, because of this, subconsciously, we end up doubting ourselves. We don't have role models externally, and even internally, we don't feel we have all the skills required to succeed in the outer world. So, even when we are succeeding, in the doing, it may be different that we are succeeding, we are doing really well. But internally, we'll just keep feeling, I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough. And that feeling of good enough will be like a fuel in some ways that it may get us to excel, to achieve. And that's great. But if that continues for long, that's what leads to ill health, depletion, just never feeling good enough. At the same time, there are also women who've had largely a masculine nature or a nurturing, either of those. Here, what's likely to happen is that they might feel disconnected from the wisdom of their own body, their own intuition. It might lead to an impact on your health and well being because you have been overworking. And this has been my journey, for example. I have been educated, valued, had a lot of role models. My own mother was a working woman. So I always had that model for how a woman could be strong, confident, independent, all of that. But despite that, then I went into the extreme of my masculine. I got disconnected from my own self. And suddenly I just found myself feeling completely unfulfilled, completely depleted. I became all in the thought realm, not in the realm of emotions. So I lost touch with my own self, and my health and well being suffered. Right? So we may have succeeded in the outer world because of the masculine qualities, but we are still likely to continue with this set of issues. At the same time, it's not only challenges alone. We are also likely to have certain benefits because of our past context. And that can serve like a foundation that we can build on. So, if you've been masculine, nurtured, some of the benefits are that you know how to succeed in the outer world. You know how to get things done. And it's the same energy that you can direct them to your inner pursuits, to your inner journey. And so this becomes very handy, this whole energy of doing things, of being result oriented. And we can just shift the results that we're going towards now, perhaps. The result can be what will it take for me to have my own fulfillment? Likewise, there are benefits of feminine nurturing as well, that we would have had less pressure to perform, more allowance to be creative. So that may have gotten us the ability to be in touch with our true self. And women are naturally, we see even as a society, there is a lot more allowance for women to be in touch with their emotions and their intuition and their creativity than for men. Right? So that's what becomes a benefit because then you can do these intuitive pursuits. Right? Externally, you can have space for your emotions internally. So I invite you with this overarching, some thinking, some thoughts to get started. Again, reflect for yourself. What has been your past conditioning? Largely masculine, largely feminine. Where have you been? It could have been your nature, it could have been how you've been nurtured, how you grew up, seeing the influences around you. And when you reflect on where you have been on the spectrum, what are the challenges that you need to overcome? Yes, your masculine or feminine nature has served you, but what are some challenges that you may be facing today because of not bringing in the wholeness? So just take a moment to reflect on that. And also reflect on what are some benefits of your upbringing, of your natural nature. How can you leverage those in your journey of rising into your whole self, of true empowerment? So the challenges, the opportunities, the foundation that you can build on, and what you need to do differently. So far we've seen two things, the destination and the path. The destination is that of rising into our whole self, where there's a power, the true power to make choice. And what do we choose based on the need of the situation? Do I need the masculine more, the feminine more? And aligned to our values, our essence. So that's the destination of wholeness that we saw. And we also saw that men and women will have their own journey to rising. Even within women, we saw based on your context, your past, your conditioning, the path can be different. The challenges will be different. The opportunities will be different. So what we will now see is a process that you can use to rise into your wholeness. So this rising into the wholeness is inspired by nature, and the connect with nature will become a lot more clearer. But very simply, nature shows is constantly rising and growing. It shows us how a seed can become a plant and a plant can become a tree. So the secret to rise is within this word itself. Each of these letters stands for something. Let's look at them one by one. R is to reconnect. Reconnect to yourself, to nature, and to each other. So in today's fast-paced world, we're all connected, you might say, through the internet, WhatsApp, social engagements, office meetings, get-togethers. You might argue that we have actually a lot more connection that we need. But this connection is at a superficial level. So the invitation is to really slow down, step back, go out, step out of the doing into the being, be with yourself. It's when you connect with yourself, with nature, where so many answers lie, and with other women around, because this is a shared experience of women. You're not alone. That's when the answers will come from. You don't need to look for a book or theory. You will get your own answers. And today we have all the life-changing content that we need. There is enough and more that we have seen on YouTube and social media. But we need to connect with our own selves, our inner guru, our inner teacher, our inner voice, the wisdom of our body, energy, mind, emotions, intuition, aspect. So that's the first R. I is then to invite a new way of being that supports you. So we saw the masculine and the feminine ways of being, and now you need to see in which situation, when you connect with yourself, you'll be able to see a different perspective. Instead of trying to change people around you or change the situation, what is a new way of being that you can step in? Do you need to be more of the masculine and assert yourself, be in your power, show your boundaries? Or do you need to be in the feminine, where you need to be compassionate? Like maybe even take that compassion to yourself so that you can rest more. Do you need to do more? Do you need to be more? So that's the invitation that you give, right? What can you do differently? The S is for safety. So oftentimes we are so stuck in our current mode and we feel like that's the only way to survive. But actually it restricts us. If we move to a mode of thriving rather than surviving, we can actually see that we can be safe to take some of these risks, because stepping out of your comfort zone, of your pattern, is not going to be easy. So find these spaces where you are safe, right? So where you feel psychological safety, physical safety, emotional safety. It can be your close friends, it can be family members who understand you, maybe some colleagues. So find what are those places and where you feel safe, because that safety is what will enable you to do the next E, which is E to emerge, right? Emerge into this new you, be in the driver's seat of your life. So a plant does not become a tree overnight. You don't need to take massive and scary leaps and suddenly change yourself. Rather, you can take small, exciting steps towards your vision for wholeness. So that's the invitation to emerge, right? So when you're in a safe space, then you can do experiments to emerge. Practice, what might it be? To either set your boundaries more clearly or to soften them, to be more action oriented or to be more being oriented. So all of those are what you practice in emerging. And it's also important to note that this is not easy and not suggested to do completely shift overnight, because there is a certain ecosystem around you that you don't want to completely disturb, right? You want to make it easier for them also to adjust with this shift. It's going to be different for you also. You might physically, even at a bodily level, you might be so used to doing things in a certain way that it's a rewiring of your nervous system, your patterns as well. So take small, small steps, and instead of a huge leap, you can take small steps, one step every day. So this is rise, reconnect, invite, be safe, and emerge. And there's another N. N is to nurture this process, to do this on a regular basis. Because when you keep nurturing it, then the rise becomes risen. Then you have actually risen. So the power of consistency. Atha Yoga Anushasanam. It is an Anushasan. It requires committing and taking steps every single day. So you might decide on reconnection, right? That you're going to perhaps go out for a walk, do your yoga, your meditation, ways to connect with yourself, do journaling, find any way to be in yoga, in union with yourself, with other women around, with nature. You might say every day you're going to invite a new way of being in a current situation. You're going to find a safe space where you can emerge. But you need to nurture this process, do this very regularly. So I can share, like for myself, one of the things that really, really helps me and I do quite regularly is to spend a couple of hours once a week in nature. That's when I can really step out from my patterns. I can see things very differently, very different perspectives emerge. And I then go back with inspiration to approach challenging situations in a different way. What is beautiful about this is actually that different people also have different outcomes and experiences in this process of rising. And I'm going to share some examples now. Changing some very deep rooted patterns is not a very simple, straightforward process. What really helps is to have support from like minded women, a community around. And I have personally experienced this. So, based on my experience of working with my own self and many, many women, at Swasth, we created a 3-month journey called Rise to enable women to actually undertake this journey with a lot more ease and joy. So, we have what is called Rise. It starts with a 3-day residential workshop and it's followed by 3 months of online support, where we are supported by nature and a very supportive circle of sisterhood to make these leaps that we wish to, but using small steps. It's amazing what can transpire at the end of a 3 months of consistently doing these things every single day. So this is a workshop and a journey rather that we offer, And I'm going to share some of the learnings of participants, but some takeaways, some things that people have said is that, they've realized that they are not here to live by other standards, not to follow blindly this template that we talked of. Can we create our own standards, our own path to rising? Can I listen to my inner voice, the inner wisdom? Have experienced this. Many people have said that they've experienced safety, a safe space to feel lost, because yes, we will feel lost initially when we are not our old self. It might be a space where we don't know what to do, but it helps to have safety of other women of nature around, a safety that enables us to explore, right? Explore what's really happening in the present and to envision a completely different future. And I have been amazed by the kind of stories and journeys that have transpired in 3 months of Rise. A few examples I want to share is one is of a single mother who was working so hard towards providing for her teenage son, providing the best and, making sure that he had a good experience in life. But in working so hard, what was suffering was her relationship with him. The very thing that she wanted to strengthen was getting suffered. And she realized that even if she excels in all her professional pursuits, she realized that until that feminine side of that nurturing of that son, with that son is incomplete, she will not feel whole. And so she decided to spend a lot more time finding common interests, connecting with her son. And that beautifully gave her so much joy to then start, which then start impacting her health, and she could do different things for her. And that's one example. Another example on the other side is of someone who had been extremely in the feminine. She had given all of herself and become so powerless in her marriage, in her family situation, that she was constantly taking care of others, and she felt very, very undervalued. She felt that she was not appreciated and she was only put down for everything. And she decided that she is not going to put herself down anymore. There is no point of fighting with her family. Rather, she said, I need to learn how to value my own self. And for that, she actually started going out and offering her skills, her gifts to people, doing a lot of different workshops, whether it's on connection to nature, mandala, art, a talk on women's empowerment. She started doing so many different things and started saying, okay, I now need to also start working so that I feel independent, so that my sense of self-worth increases and I don't feel powerless in the situation. Another journey that comes to my mind is a colleague of mine, in fact, who had switched from the corporate sector and had been at Swasth and had had such a beautiful journey of rising. Again, shifting out from the corporate and coming here. But she realized after spending a couple of years here that now she wants to rise even more. And she actually started listening to her calling of working with children. And I'm so glad to say that today she is taking that leap to actually become an entrepreneur, to work with children and to explore that interest. So that's another beautiful story that's very, very close to my heart. So I guess the idea is for you to know that there are different paths. We as women are also not going to have the same journey, and there is no one right template. It is about what is right for you. And you decide that based on your essence, right? Your context, your values, and the challenges that you're facing today. So we will now step into a guided meditation reflection for you to reflect on your rise journey for yourself. But before I do that, I'm going to share a brief summary of what we've discussed so far. So we've seen that yoga is about internal empowerment, not seeking power by doing a lot of different things, right? To be internally whole. So it's not about doing it all, but rather being it all, that ability to be who we need to be. So empowerment is to rise into the potential of our whole self with the power to make choices as per the situation and aligned to our values and our essence. And we also saw that there's no one template to rise. Each of us can create our own unique path, but we saw a common process. of RISE: reconnection, invitation, safety, and emergence. And when you keep nurturing this process, then the RISE N becomes risen. Then we have risen. So we will now start bringing the session to a wrap, but we'll do a guided reflection process for you to put it all together. I invite you to have a paper and a pen with you for that process. And as I ask you certain questions, you may wish to write those down. So for this reflection, we are going to seek inspiration from nature again. And what you see here is the template that's showing a seed that is rising into a plant with leaves, with flowers, perhaps with fruits. And this is the soil. And these inputs are denoting certain inputs that the seed gets, right? So for a seed to become a plant, it needs the soil, it needs certain inputs, and slowly, then it starts becoming a plant and then a tree. So the way we look at rise in this context is the reconnection with myself. Right? When we reconnect with ourselves, then we know what is the seed that we're really trying to plant. So that's the connection back to our essence. When we say make the power to make choices aligned to our essence, this is the reconnection. We need to reconnect with ourselves, know what is the seed that we're planting. Then the invitation is these different arrows, these different nourishing inputs that we want to invite, right? Which are going to nourish us, that are going to support the seed. And these inputs can be being, how am I going to be, and certain actions that we're going to take. As we invite things, then we need the safety, right? So just the soil provides us protective cover. Likewise, we need to find safety in certain people, situations, relationships where we can start experimenting so that we can emerge in all areas of our life. Just like a seed converts into leaves, flowers, and fruits. What is your emergence going to look like? So I invite you to take a few moments to connect with yourself so you can take your attention inwards. Take a few deep breaths, breathing in and out slowly. You can close your eyes or keep them semi-open. And I'm going to set the intention for our time together with this mantra. You can listen and repeat silently. We chant Purnamada, the wholeness. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Keeping your attention inwards, connect with your breath. Feel your body in the present moment. And ask yourself, beneath all the different dreams, wishes, aspirations that you have for your future, what's the seed that you wish to plant? In in one word or one phrase or a visual, ask yourself, what's the essence of the seed that you wish to plant for your new future? How do you wish to be underneath all you're doing? Go with the first word, first image that pops up. And as you see yourself planting the seed, ask yourself, what are the different inputs that you need to give to yourself? Things that you need to invite into your life. So if you want the seed to blossom, what are some things that you want to start doing? What are things that you want to stop doing that don't nourish you? What are certain things that you can do on a regular basis to nourish yourself? So let a few inputs come up. What will nourish you? It can be activities, it can be people, it can be situations you want to be in, and also things that you can do all by yourself, where you're not dependent on anyone. So what will you do, not do, or do differently? Kartum, akartum, anitha kartum. Now ask yourself, what is the safety that you need? What are some places where you feel safe? It can be physical places, like your room, a garden, a temple, a place of worship, anything. Where do you feel safe to be yourself? What are some relationships where you can be safe and you can experiment with a new way of being? People at work, your family, some friends. Where can you be you and experiment with different things? So that's a safety that you want to invite and spend time with or in. And finally, ask yourself, how might life look different as you emerge into your wholeness? So see the different areas of your life and see what could shift and be different. What are the flowers that can bloom? So how can your home and relationships there be different? How will you be different in terms of how you are, how you speak, how you engage with others? How will this different you show up differently at work? So don't be bound by any limits. Allow yourself to explore wildly impossible possibilities. How can your health be when you are your whole self? Physically, mentally. Just visualize what's this new you that wants to emerge and how will she look? How will she be? How will she talk? How will people experience her? And as you think of this emergence, go back to the seed. From the top, go right to the bottom. Everything that you wish to blossom will happen when you go back to the seed, the essence. You invite energies that will nourish it. You give it the safety. You have a lot of potential within. Allow yourself to blossom. In your own time, you can come back into the space, put this video on pause, and on this template that you see, you can replicate this on paper, write all the things that came to you. And you can also put images. And this becomes your intention board, your vision board, what you're committed to. So take your time to complete this. Thank you so much for the time, for the trust. And if you wish to seek any support from the Swasth Institute at any point of time in your journey, we'd be very, very glad to walk this with you. Our work is to allow and enable everyone to step into the full potential and experience this fulfillment, this wholeness in all aspects of life. To have a healthy body, abundant energy, mental clarity, emotional stability, purpose, and inner joy in all aspects, whether it's the professional, the personal, or the societal. And a range of tools are available to do this work, whether it's working with food, emotions, movement and relaxation, science and philosophy, nature's wisdom. We offer all of these different tools through group workshops, retreats, and one-on-one sessions for you to enable, for you to take this journey. So if you wish to contact us at any point of time, here are our contact details. And this is a web page with a link to all our workshops. Thank you so much once again for the time and for the trust. And may we all rise into our wholeness. Namaskar.